Today I wanted to go over my settings and keybinds in Battlebit Remastered. I want to preface this video by mentioning that some of this is subjective and can vary depending on what you, as an individual, are comfortable with, and the peripherals that you have can also impact certain keybinds, while some of these settings are purely objective based on the desire to be slightly more competitive in BBR. So starting off with the gameplay section of these settings, most of these I think are by default, so show dot, crosshair, show pings, borders, auto ready when dead, share loadout. I choose to have dark flashbang on, just the white is so much brighter and hurts my eyes. I do believe that the dark flashbang lasts a little bit longer. I haven't tested this than the regular white flashbang, but if you're getting full flash, chances are you're not making it out alive, so I'd rather not burn my retinas off, so that's why I have dark flashbang. I turned off weekly challenge notifications. I found them more bothersome than anything. Hit markers enabled, hit marker base volume 2.5. Random rotation I completely turned off. Random rotation basically for hit markers only changes like the angle of the hit marker, so it's personal preference whether you want them on or what you want the degree of it to be. Most of this stuff is on default for the hit markers. Now I changed this for colors that I think work for me, but again, personal preference. So I have default hit marker colors set to blue, so 255 blue. Headshot hit marker color is set to red, so 255 red. Armor hit marker color is set to like a baby blue, so 181 green and 255 blue. And then the kill hit marker color is set to full green, so 255. And then for the user interface, that's basically everything you can see on screen. So show level progression will show you how close you are to leveling in the bottom middle of your screen. Show squad list, cult friendly icons. I have scoreboard style set by sort by score. You can also sort by squads. Show line towards objective. I believe this is off by default. Basically, it just shows you a line towards the objective, but it just adds more clutter to the HUD, so I would rather have it off. And then we go into the basically player color icons. So friendly color, I have it set to baby blue, somewhat similar to the armor. Steam friend is orange, party member is pink, squad friendly color is green, squad captain is purple, enemy color is red, and then we have objectives and stuff like that. I believe this is all by default. Show FPS is off. You can turn this on. I have a sensor panel connected to my PC, so I can just see the frames per second on that. Ping size 100 is by default. Flag size, I believe I turned this down slightly, so I have it set to 50, and the flag's opacity set to 50 as well. They did raise the flag icons as opposed to before where it was like in the middle of your screen. Now it's kind of like up at the top, so it doesn't just block the middle of your screen when you're trying to shoot at people, so that's good. And then most of these, the crosshair color I have set to full green. I usually try to have a color that doesn't appear much in the game that I'm playing, so a very bright green appears very seldomly, but the crosshair is, you don't get it that often anyways, so that's that. Show keybindings, I just have this set to on, so basically this just shows you keybinds in the bottom of your HUD. For example, packing magazines or combining mags I have it set to T, so if you took it off, the white box would still be there, so it's kind of pointless to turn this off. Show button to ping on flags, so when you're squad leader, you can just directly ping flags instead of having to go into your command wheel. Then for the rest of this, mostly default. I think I have chat size slightly down at 12, and then for the rest, it's pretty much default. So moving on to the controls. So I have directional climbing on. Toggle lean I have turned off. I would much rather have lean set to hold. That way when I just release the button, I go back. It's just a personal preference, but I think it's way better having it off. Toggle aim, on the other hand, I prefer having on. That's just years and years of having toggle aim set to on. I feel like I put too much pressure if I have it set to hold on my mouse, so it just throws off my aim, so I have this set to toggle aim on. Toggle dragging players, same thing. I don't want to hold the button to drag a player, I just press it, and then if I have to let go, then I just press it again. Again, personal preference. Toggle sprint, I absolutely loathe in first-person shooters. As soon as I let go of the button, I want to stop sprinting. That's it. Reload style, so 1 tap is tactical, 2 tap is drop, and I believe the reload tap delay is 0.15 seconds by default, so basically this is, if I press R once, I will do a tactical reload, so just take out the mag and put a new one in, and then the 2 tap is drop, so what is considered a quick reload. Mouse sensitivity, I don't really mess around with this. I have 400 DPI if that matters, and then vertical sensitivity is horizontal is 100 as well, and I believe that is default. Same for aim down sight. All these different sights, same thing. I keep it set to 100. I rarely use sights, magnified sights, so I'm most of the time rocking a red dot, if not maybe an ACOG on a sniper, but I don't use 6Xs and beyond. So that pretty much does it for the controls section of this video. Moving on to key binding. So we're getting to the meat and potatoes here, so to speak. So most of this is by default. When we get into the custom keybinds here, or modified keybinds, I have toggle crouch set to left control. I hate having it to C because then that means prone is usually X or Z, and I don't know, it's just weird to contort your thumb to that position. So I have toggle crouch set to left control, which is much more comfortable, and then prone set to C, which is very much accessible with your thumb, and then nothing for just basic crouch. Lean left and lean right. So I took these off of Q and E and I put them to my mouse. The reason being, when you're leaning with Q and E, that means your two fingers that usually are on A and D are now used to lean. Now, if you have it set to your mouse, you can move around freely like you usually do, but lean at the same time. So I think it is much better to have it set to mouse 4 and mouse 3, so your thumb buttons, just for that simple reason that you still can move around freely without having to hold Q and E. Again, personal preference. If you have toggle lean, then Q and E might do it for you, but I absolutely hate toggle lean. So that's why I have it set to mouse 4 and mouse 3. Vault and jump are the same key. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't bother me. If you don't like vaulting over stuff all the time, then you might want to modify this key for something else, but it does the job for me. Free look, I don't have bound. If I'm looking somewhere, that's where my gun's pointing. That's how I want it to be. This isn't the type of game in which I would really use free look. Maybe more in a game like that's a little bit more hardcore, like Tarkov or something like that. Free look would be advantageous to use, but in BBR, everything's so fast that it doesn't really matter. You can generally tell where people are coming from. Drag players I have set to F, so again, that's toggle. So if I press F, I'm dragging body, then if I press F again, I'm letting it go. For the drone keys, these are all default. Night vision is N, and I believe that's default. Shoot and secondary fire, aim down sight, same thing, default. Fire mode I set to V, just more comfortable for me. I think this is maybe B by default, but I could be wrong. Zeroing, increase and decrease, I never use these. I'm a pretty aggressive recon when I play recon, so I'm usually within 200 meters, so I don't really need to mess with the zeroing. So this, again, if you're sniping from really far, might work for you, but I just used the mil dots on the sight if I do snipe from a distance. Steady aim, shift, pretty basic. Reload R. Combined magazines I have set to T. A little bit easier to reach than, I think the default key is maybe H. But yeah, I have it set to T so I can still move around without, then again, I could use my thumb for H, but yeah, T is just more comfortable for me. Magazine check, which I very rarely use, is H. Unless I'm down to my last magazines, I'll check like how many rounds I have, but very rarely. Switch to next sight I have set to the mouse wheel, and I believe this is default maybe. So that way I can swap sights. I usually use this on maybe like the FAL. So I have like a 2X or a 4X on there, and then a canted sight so I can swap between the sights easily. Toggle laser B, caps lock for FLIR switching, which I think is default. And then for the loadouts, so switch next weapon I have set to scroll wheel positive, which is default, and then switch previous weapon I don't have any. I usually switch weapons and gadgets with the alphanumerical keys, or in this case, for the primary, I have it set to Q, so I can quickly swap without having to reach for one, which is arguably further than Q. And then for the secondary, I have it set to mouse scroll wheel negative, which is down, also alphanumerical 2. That way I can quickly swap to my pistol without having to move my fingers off the WASD keys. So just a little bit more convenient for me. Throwable G, pretty standard. Interact, all standard. Drop cash, which is interesting. I would imagine this is for like a future game mode or something, but I've never seen any cash in here. Build, unbuild, repair, all pretty standard keys here. And for the ping, mouse 2. And I also have that set to my command wheel. So if I hold it, then I have all the commands available to me. And then for the rest of it, pretty much all default. Now moving on to the nenext interesting section, or one of the more pertinent sections, the video settings. So I have my screen set to 1440, even though I only have a 1080p monitor. I feel like it's a little bit more clear in this game. Again, might just be me and my vision. I do need glasses, so that could be the reason. Exclusive full screen, so my mouse doesn't go off the monitor that I'm playing on, because I do have 3 monitors. Screen still at 100. Vertical sync, I have it set to off. Max FPS 240 because I have a 240 hertz monitor. If you have a lower hertz monitor, it's negligible whether this will make a difference or not. So if you have a 144 hertz monitor, you might want to put this down to 144 because the 240 might not do much for you. Brightness 100, field of view default. For both screen shake, I have set to off. I don't like shaking in my games. It throws off your aim, or it just makes your vision bad. I don't like this. Might be more immersive, but if you're trying to be a little bit more competitive, have this set to off. For the graphics, I have shadows enabled. All this is by default. I have anti-aliasing turned off. Now, it does make edges more jagged when you're looking at them from a distance, but I find it makes the entirety of the game more clear, and it makes characters or player models stand out more. So no anti-aliasing. If we turn it, this is what it looks like from a distance. You can see like some of these edges are kind of jagged on the right there in the building when you're not looking directly at them. But once you get used to it, you generally don't really look very far away. So if I go back to this position here and then I turn it on, you'll notice that the edges on the right-hand side are going to clean up a little bit. So you can see they're really jagged right now. And if we go back into video and we put this on, for example, FX, if I can click it, FXA high, you'll see they're much smoother. And then if we try and put it on, oh God, why does it not go? Okay, if we go SMA high, then they're even smoother. But I find it makes the game a little bit too blurry for me. And I feel like character models, if we're looking at this character here, he's kind of like all smooth and rounded. And then if we turn off anti-aliasing, you'll see the edges of him are like, they're crisper. Arguably, the game is a little bit uglier to look at this way, but when you're in combat, you're not really looking at details all that much. But again, this is personal preference, and I do think that if you have a weaker system, no anti-aliasing might boost your frame rate a little bit, so that is to consider. For the rendering, so I have destruction quality set to ultra. This depends on what kind of hardware you have, of course. If you have lower end system, then you might want to turn some of these settings down. I have a RTX 3080 with a pretty decent processor, so destruction quality set to ultra. All this is pretty much set to default. Rain quality, I could bump it up. It's set to medium, but yeah, I could bump it up. That's what I have it set to. Image effects. Now, I don't like image effects in video games. Motion blur, I hate. It makes me feel sick. So this is what motion blur looks like. You can tell on screen. The gun has like a ghosting effect. Absolutely terrible if you're trying to play a little bit more competitively. And this is what it looks like set to off. So there's no blurring there. There's no ghosting of the images. It's just whatever you're looking at is what it is. So motion blur tries to mimic kind of like, I guess, real life, but I can't do it. Vignette, don't like. ADS effect, don't like. So the ADS effect, I think it just blurs everything around you a little bit. It's very, very minimal. You can see like around the sight, it's trying to mimic as though your eye is trying to look through the aperture and making everything around it blurry. But when you turn it off, everything's just going to be clean. Like there's no blur around the back iron sight here. And then if we move contrast intensity, I have it set to on. So if you turn this off, everything looks a little bit more samey. The colors don't pop out as much. So darks and brights are just closer together. There's less contrast in between them. So I just have it set to max. So everything's a little bit cleaner, and I can tell dark spots from light spots apart better. And then film grain. Also, I don't like having film grain in games. It makes everything just look off to me. So I have film grain set to off. And also all these settings generally impact frame rate. If you want better frames, it's strongly advised that you turn all of these off. Moving on to audio. So I didn't change much here. So master audio, whatever is good for you. I have it set lower so I can just use my audio interface to change this. Music set to 60%. Music is good. I don't like having it on all the time. And sometimes when end of game is coming, you have music going, it can distract you. Kill sound, 100, UI audio, 100, and then all this other stuff is set to 100. Mic volume, depends what kind of mic you have, but this is just, nitty gritty stuff. or yeah, this is just stuff that's a little bit more personal and doesn't really affect your game that much. So that pretty much does it for the settings and keybinds for Battlebit. This is what is comfortable for me. A lot of these are, again, subjective based on what kind of hardware you have, what kind of peripherals you have, mostly for the keybinds and all that. I have a special kind of keyboard. I'll put a picture of it on screen right now. So that's what my keyboard looks like. So, and it also depends on your hand size, whatever is more comfortable for you for the keybinds. But just know that the most important part of playing a first-person shooter, having keybinds that are comfortable, but also allow you the most movement at the more often possible. So the most often possible that you can keep your fingers on your movement keys, the better you're going to play. And it might take some time to adjust, but just know that it's always better to be moving than having to stand still to do an action. So that's my whole philosophy behind my key bindings. But yeah, that is enough for today. This video dragged on a little bit too long, but I did want to explain a little bit more in detail why I have things set the way they are. But there's timestamps in the comment section down below, or sorry, the description, for all the different sections of the video. And I think I will also leave like screenshots of my settings, links to that if you want to go and check them out instead of pausing the video or something. But yeah, let me know if you enjoyed the video. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good one.